So Derrick Aroh, so for some of our listeners who might not know, is a very successful A&R with RCA Records. And so I want to first start off with you signed a very important artists throughout your career. So when did you decide to become an A&R and working closely with artists?
Yeah. So my journey, I guess, started when I was graduating high school. I actually had graduated in 2007, and I had a family friend of mine who came by on July 4th. I'll never forget it. And she's like, "Yo, what are you doing for college? What are you doing this summer?" Right? And I'm like, I'm trying to be in the music business because I used to rap at the time, and I was serious, but I guess I wasn't at the same time because you never really know like that's a possibility. So then she said, "Why don't you do an internship?" That's how Puffy started, and it blew my mind because in 2007, you have to remember, again, I was just turned 18. Twitter didn't really exist yet. Instagram didn't exist. Wikipedia was new. So, it was around, but it was new. So there wasn't a lot of, like, out there information. There was information that you could find, but it wasn't as available as it is today, right? So, like, with celebrities, you almost felt like they were like destined, like they kind of came out the sky and they were successful. You never really knew like they started off in the same way you started off, essentially. And when I heard that he interned, and I said, "Wait, you went to college and interned?" And I said, "I could do the same thing." I said, "Oh shit, there you go." So I tried my best to get all these internships. I was applying all summer, and ironically, I ended up interning for Puffy in the winter of 2008. And it was very, very brief. Then I left, went to J Records, which eventually would turn into RCA, and I interned there. And I remember I was like, I'm never leaving. So I interned there for 3.5 years. And then when I my whole philosophy was be an artist, be an intern, get a job as an A&R, be a really good A&R, so I could be able to have my own label and put out my own music. That was my goal. Because also, this is dating me a little bit. But back in 07, 08, it wasn't as how can I put it? It wasn't as apparent, or it wasn't as popular, I guess, for young artists to be able to put out music on their own on the internet. Like Soulja Boy is probably the first one to kind of do that in a way where it's like successful, which was the summer of 2007. But it wasn't until like maybe like Cudi in 08, Drake, and a couple others that really got successful off putting out mixtapes where it was like, oh, like you could do this on your own. So I didn't have that mindset. I was like, I got to find a way to be backed by a company. So my philosophy was intern, kill as an intern, become an A&R, kill as an A&R, get my own label, put out my own music, kind of like how Puffy did essentially, right? And then, but along the way, when I was interning, I didn't really feel like making music anymore. I wasn't as excited about the element of writing and stuff, but I was falling in love with the element of finding artists and the Billboard charts and producers and all that type of stuff. So I slowly but surely focused on trying to be an A&R guy, fully just an A&R guy, and I entered in all these different departments and in A&R and then in promotions and in marketing. And then when I graduated, or actually when I was done with school, an A&R assistant job opened up at the newly merged RCA, and I became an assistant in A&R, and I built my way up to become an A&R.
And throughout your career, how would you summarize the transformation that the job itself, A&R, had, like with the advancements in the technology and the streaming platforms?
Yeah.
How was it, and how do you think it is now, and what's the direction that it's headed?
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like I put it like this. To that point that I mentioned, because a lot of artists didn't put out their own stuff on their own and it wasn't as promoted to do that, and the labels controlled who were successful. We controlled essentially the way that kids would listen to music. So if, like, when I was in college, the artists that were popular or the artists that were becoming popular were artists that were backed by a company in some form or fashion. Or if they weren't, if they were not backed by a company, but they were like on the underground, once it got a little bit of shine, the label would pick them up and then will carry on their process. I always said, like, there was very few artists that when they got to major labels, their albums were better than their mixtapes because even though when you were younger and you're by yourself, you had your own creative expression, and then the labels do what gave fans what the fans thought they wanted, right? But now because artists can make stuff on their own, things move faster. So like, back then, in 2011, 12, SoundCloud or a lot of these other companies weren't as prevalent in like an artist breaking through. Then SoundCloud in 2014, 2015 became pretty popular. And then, Twitter and Instagram and all these other social media platforms were kind of like places where, you could kind of exist if you're an artist, but it wouldn't be loud. Now, essentially, like an artist who's unknown can break straight off of Instagram or Twitter or TikTok with Lil Nas X or, whatever, you know what I'm saying? So social media, all these social platforms on top of SoundCloud and Spotify to a degree. Spotify and Apple are kind of like the last resorts. Like if you find something on a playlist on Spotify, I'm not saying it's late because that's not the case, but if you find something on there, more than likely it's probably tapped in some form or fashion. You can still find it and then go forward from there. That's perfectly fine too. But yeah, I think it's the kids control so much more than actually the kids control probably all of it more than the corporations do. And it's a good and bad thing because it's a good thing because you don't have some big guy in some suite somewhere controlling what you guys like or what even I like. You know what I'm saying? However, it goes both ways because a lot of people sometimes, especially younger kids, younger kids' taste isn't as advanced yet. You know what I'm saying? Like I know when I was a child, the stuff I like was very, very basic stuff. So hence, a lot of basic stuff being successful because that's what they're gravitating to. So the filler between like the line between quality and commerce kind of gets blurred because it's not an older person's game; it's a younger person's game. Now, the great artists are the ones that can do both, like the Kendricks, the Drakes, the J. Cole's, and yada, 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 Gambino, all those guys, they can do both. But, you have to cut through a lot of that to get to those.
And you were talking about how artists are coming out of these platforms. And when you're recruiting talent, like, what are some of the key components you look for?
Mm-hmm. The number one thing for me is when an artist has a vision of what they're supposed to represent. So basically, when I see an artist or hear an artist or listen to an artist, I want to be able to know exactly the crowd that's at the show, the crowd that's supposed to be at the show but hasn't been touched yet, the people that's supposed to be liking the music. If I go and check their Twitter and their Instagram, the people I expect to be commenting positively should be exactly who those people are. Then, next point, and then they have like a unique tone to them. They may not be necessarily the most unique artist in the world. You could be a gimmick artist and be unique in the way you're a gimmick. You know what I'm saying? Like you can be an artist that's built like Lil Nas X came off of TikTok. You know what I'm saying? But his voice is very unique online. He has a very unique voice that cuts through. You know what I'm saying? Now he's gonna be able to have to do this over and over again for him to really last for a very long time. But at least right now it shows you that he has a unique perspective that is hard to replicate. You can't just be, I'm on TikTok and I'm gonna be that. It's not gonna happen. But those are the artists. Artists have a very unique perspective. Numbers, obviously, there's always this whole conversation about numbers. Do they matter? Do they not? And I think it's a yes and no. Like, I'm not going to listen to something and see crazy numbers and I'm going to sign it just because the numbers are big. Because that's bull. Like, because every artist, once they have a popular moment, a popular song, it ends. At some point, the popular song ends, right? If you don't understand what that artist means past that song, you're not going to be able to recreate or create the next version of what that's supposed to be. You're going to be stuck. You know what I'm saying? And so I have to believe in the artist overall. And then if the numbers match up to the artist, then that's perfect. When the numbers and the artist match up, that's a win. That's go all in, do whatever you need to do. But when it's, sometimes it's no numbers and it's all that happens, and sometimes it's some numbers and all of that. That's a lot of the cases for me is stuff that has like numbers is going positively, but their feeling is so much realer than that. And then you just marry both together and hopefully you could catch the numbers later.
And more of a personal question, but how did being in the music industry and being in the music business change you as a person or like help you discover stuff about yourself?
What's funny? I don't know if it changed or I guess it made me realize that it made me realize that all the years that I was messing up in school, I probably could have been a lot better at it because I just didn't focus. And I'm very good at when I want something, I get it essentially. And it made me realize, like, damn, I probably would have been a lot better at math if I really wanted to be better at math. I think the music business is a crazy business. There's a lot of it's very fun. There's a lot of really great stuff that come from it. But it's something that's very taxing. It's taxing emotionally, physically. There's a lot of stuff that you spiritually. There's a lot of stuff that you have to kind of know about yourself to be like, okay, this is what I'm going to stand for. And I think as I've gone in the journey of just trying to continue to progress, I guess I've learned to just be very steadfast on my beliefs but my beliefs creatively, and then also my beliefs as just a human being and what I will support and what I won't support.